Russ Mitchell, how the heck are you, my friend? Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Get it right, man. Kicking tires, lighting fires.
Okay. All right. Now, Russ, we just want to know one thing. Have you went down to Baton Rouge this week yet with Matt Moscona and told those guys the truth, or is that later this week?
The corn dogs? No, that's later today.
Oh, Lord. What are you going to tell them?
Wait, talking about free Devin White?
Well, that or Alabama's coming to town, or have you told them the truth?
Oh, trust me, they know Alabama's coming to town. Everybody knows when Bama's coming to town. Specifically to this Devin White thing, it was a bad call. I don't think anybody thinks it was a good call. Very few. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you're a Bama fan or an Alabama or an LSU fan or whatever. The problem, and I'm in favor of this rule. I'm in favor of it. I think it's I think the intention is right, but here's the thing.
You don't really like this rule, do you, Russ?
I do actually like this rule. The problem is that it's just so ridiculously impossible to call. And then, so we send it up to the booth, right? And some guy is supposed to look at 1 or 2 or 3 camera angles and figure this out. Meanwhile, everybody's screaming at him to make a decision because everyone wants the game to go on, which obviously we do. So what needs to happen is it needs to be the conference needs to 2 or 3 days later sit down and look at it with cooler heads, take look at multiple different versions, see what the effect was on the guy who was hit, because that's part of it too. I mean, Nick Fitzgerald didn't even want to leave the field. He barely fell down. It's like, come on, man, we're going to kick a guy out of a game for this? So while I think it's a good rule, I think that there needs to be more input by each conference on the Monday or Tuesday after the weekend's games.
All right, so
because this kid should be playing in the Alabama game.
He should be.
And if you're an Alabama fan, you don't want this because you're going to probably win that game anyway, and you want it. You're Alabama. You're the best team in America. You want to play teams with their best players, so you beat them with their best players. You don't want to back into this. You're Alabama, for crying out loud. You don't back into anything. You walk straight through the front door and you take it. So, this doesn't work for anybody, least of all this young man who works his tail off. And now because of some ridiculous call, he's not going to be able to play in arguably the biggest game of his career.
So, Russ, in this state, LSU fans, those fans, crazy, passionate, whatever you want to call them, they're awesome. But, it's what makes the sport that you and I love so much. They have rented some billboards here in this area, 13 billboards, and spent good, hard-earned money.
Real money.
Yes, on renting billboards in this area. What do you think?
If that say what? Free Devin White?
Yeah, hashtag free Devin White.
It's so silly because, as I understand it, the conference, as the way the rules exist today, the conferences have very little authority, right, in their ability to be able to overturn these sorts of plays. So, look, man, I'd spend it on food and beer myself, but if that's what they want to spend it on, it's their money.
Yeah, I even I made a campaign yesterday. If they want to buy ads on radio stations in Tuscaloosa,
I will tell you this:
they're for sale.
Yes, exactly. You want go on Ryan's show and spend money. It's like these silly TV ads that are on during the political season. It's just such waste. I will say this though. If there is a coach in America that does a better job of reaching his kids and whipping them up in this whole us versus the world, there's nobody better at that than Coach Orgeron. And he's going to he'll have 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Now personally, I'd rather have White, but they're going to get a lot of mileage out of this.
Sure. They'll take us against the world mentality and see if they can take down the Crimson Tide. Russ, what do you think about this upcoming game with Florida and Georgia. Just some early thoughts. I know we're a couple of days away from that, but I'd love to hear your analysis, breakdown of this game.
Yeah, Jake Fromm has now had, almost 2 weeks to listen to how bad he was against LSU, and he was pretty ugly.
Ooh.
I expect that what you'll see out of Kirby is a lot of really quick-hitting passes to get Fromm into rhythm right away. And, conversely, you're looking at a Florida team that does a fairly decent job of holding on to the ball. And while their offense hasn't been scintillating, they have a big offensive line. It's been solid. Next to Kentucky, it's, probably the most experienced. And they have a decent ground game. The problem is Georgia's going to put up points. So even against Florida's defense, Georgia's going to put up points in a neutral field. It's not like they're in Death Valley, which is a ridiculous place to play. They're going to be, at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. So they'll put up some points. And I'll tell you what, if you're watching this game, watch Georgia's secondary, because I'll bet you they walk away with 2 Felipe Franks interceptions, and that's the difference in this ball game.
So do you think it's close? Do you think it's close?
Well, yeah, I think this is a much better coached team right now. And I think that they will not allow Georgia to get ahead like we've seen in some of the recent games. And the offense is, again, we talked about the fact that it's got a very seasoned offensive line. The rushing game has been decent. I don't know what their rushing offense is right now. I'll look it up while we're talking. But, I expect that they'll keep the score more reasonable. And also, by the way, this Georgia defense is not as good as the Georgia defense was last year. So I don't think Georgia's going to be able to run away with it. But I think they will put up enough points that it'll make it difficult, and you'll see Felipe force it, and there's your 2 interceptions.
All right, who is Alabama out of everything that's left? You've got LSU, you've got Mississippi State. When you talk about the 2 mid-majors at the end, the Citadel and Cal College there, and then they've got the SEC championship in Atlanta. Who's the biggest chance you think the most difficult game left on Alabama's schedule?
By the way, Florida's rushing offense is 7th in the conference, ahead of LSU, by the way.
Ooh.
Clearly LSU, because you're going to play in that.
So you think it is LSU? You think it's the biggest test? Well,
it's just the stadium is. Look, Bear Bryant won there Bear Bryant beat LSU from what? 68, was it 68 to 88 or something? How many years was it that? And whatever it was, he won 10 straight times in Baton Rouge, right? And when they asked him at the end of his career what was the toughest place he ever played, he said Baton Rouge. And the guy's like, yeah, you won 10 straight times there. And he's like, and it's still the hardest place I've ever had to play football. That is a very difficult. Not only are you playing all the talent that they've got on the field, you're playing that stadium. So, yeah. That's going to be – I'm telling you, that's going to be a tough – what's the spread? Do you know what the early spread is on that?
But it's double digits. It's double digits. But
yeah, that's ridiculous. I would not – I think it'll be under 10.
Okay, so you really think it's under 10. Man, I thought you believed in us, Russ.
You guys are just ridiculous. I will say this. You haven't – what's the status on Tua?
He's fine. He's fine. That's listen. He's going to be fine. He's just got a little bit of a bump, and he's got 2 weeks to rest up. He'll be fine. Listen, this guy's superhuman out here. You've watched him throw the football.
I would feel a heck of a lot more confident about Alabama heading into that game if you'd had just one tough game first. If you guys had played just one LSU-esque team, I'd feel a lot, and if you rolled them by whatever, I'd feel a lot better. But we talked about this a couple weeks ago when Georgia was going in there, right?
We did. I
said the reason why I thought, the problem is you play nobody all year, and then you go into that hot mess. That's for those of you who've never stood on the field, and I know Bryant-Denny is just a very loud place, tough place to play. It's not like that. You can get drunk on the odor of bourbon in the air in that stadium, right? And if you're standing on the sidelines, you can't even talk to the person standing next to you. So, I would really have wished that Alabama played, there's nothing you can do about it. Your schedule is what it is, and it's back-end loaded. I would have loved that you'd had a much harder game heading into that.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of read between the lines. You might think this game is a problem for Alabama. I mean, listen, for the first couple of days this week, we've had to talk people off the cliff, and I think you're just pushing them. I think you're pushing them.
I'll tell you this. This is absolutely not every other game you've played this year. I guess we can say this now, right? It's not rat poison if it's over. Every other game you played this year, you walked into it, you could have started the second string and won. And you can start your first string in this game and you still might lose.
Ooh.
You could play Tua the whole game and you still might lose.
Russ, come on. I mean, are you all right? I mean,
the problem is you guys are so used to beating people by 40 points that you forget that there's other people with the backbone too, and they're going to fight like tigers.
We're not scared of LSU. Come on.
That's the problem. I'm not talking about being scared. I'm talking about, look, this is trust me, Nick's like 100 years old, and he's been through 700 of these games. He'll have his team. He'll have his team totally ready for this game. But I sure hope so, because I can guarantee you who's going to be ready for this game. Those LSU Tigers are going to be really, really, really ready for this game. For you all, it's just another game. Maybe one notch higher than just another game because it's a rival. But for them, this is their Super Bowl.
Did Nick Saban put you up to this, Russ?
Nick and I don't talk to each other anymore, man.
But I mean, it sounds like that he called you this morning and said, "Hey, man, I want you to light the fires." I mean, listen, this fan base is already nervous, and you
listen. This game will be less than 7 points, even with Devin sitting out a half. This is a touchdown or less game.
A touchdown or less?
Yeah.
Oh, Russ.
We'll break it down next week, brother. We'll break down each position. We'll do the whole. You know what? We'll do the whole show just breaking down this game. And when I'm done, you'll see that y'all are in for you're in for a barn fight.
All right, Russ. I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, we always say kick the tires, light the fires. I mean, I might as well. I mean, you've already lit the fire. I mean, it's blazing here in Tuscaloosa. Russ Mitchell.
Anybody that thinks you're cakewalking through Baton Rouge, you're on. You know what?
Are you going to tell them the same thing? Or are you going to go there and say Alabama today with Matt Moscona? Are you going to say Alabama's going to kick you all in the teeth? Is that what you're going to do, Russ? What do you? I mean, you say light the fires and kick the tires, man.
I tell the truth everywhere I go, baby.
All right, lay off Appalachian State. Why don't you?
Appalachian State. Can you believe that ridiculousness, putting them in the top 25?
But let them have their moment. Come on, let them have their moment. What a
clown show. I'm more comfortable letting UCF claim that they are the number one team in America when we all know that's ridiculous than I am thinking that Appalachian State deserves sniffing anything close. I'd put Missouri, above Appalachian State. Are you kidding me? If Appalachian State had to play just 2 back-to-back SEC teams, they'd lose half the first string, let alone a whole season. What a clown show. I mean, what it does to our sport when we do something stupid like that, putting Appalachian State in the top 25. What a joke.
Okay, I want to make a deal with you. I want to go back to LSU just for, seconds right here. You're a Heisman voter. You have a vote. If Tua goes to Death Valley and just destroys them, is he going to get your vote? I mean, I know you can't publicly say that, but we got to make a wager.
If Tua goes into Death Valley as a first-year starter and destroys them in their stadium after what they've done to every other team that's come into that building, then there's no one else in America that deserves the Heisman.
Okay. Hey, I'm reading Twitter. These Bama fans are all over you today.
Yeah, well, you know what? Bring it.
You've lost your blank mind, Russ Mitchell. Bama will beat LSU by 24. I want you guys to harass him, okay? I want you to get on here, Russ Mitchell, CFB. Send him some of those tweets because Baton Rouge, man, you go down there and they'll rip you for hours. I see him. So Alabama fans got to answer the call.
Jay Barker's on your network now, right? I mean,
He
isn't
is.
he with you guys?
Yeah, he is.
You know what? Get Jay on and ask him what it's like standing on that field for a night game when they've been drinking all day and they actually have a legitimate team. And you can't even, not only can you not like talk to the person standing next to you, you can't even hear yourself think. You know that term? It was so loud you can't even hear yourself think.
Listen, Joe Burrow is not going to beat Alabama.
For places like that.
Joe Burrow is not. I respect their defense. I respect their fans. I love their stadium, but they're not going to beat Alabama, Russ.
You've had in the last few years, you've had better. Here's the thing. This is the best Alabama team I've seen maybe ever. Right?
Maybe, yeah.
It's certainly up there. But LSU's team's better right now than they've been in a while too. The deviation, the delta between that is narrower right now than it's been in some of the last few years. And you all have barely squeaked wins out of that stadium in overtimes. You've had the delta between the two strengths of these teams has been wider in some previous years where you needed overtime to win. So don't think you're walking into that stadium and sauntering away with a 24-point victory. You're on crack if you think you're walking out of that stadium. This is the problem with your schedule. This is the problem with playing nothing all season and then in November thinking you can just walk into some place like that and coast with a 24-point win.
Oh, Russ. All right, man. I appreciate you. I mean, you got my audience all stirred up. The father of dragons, lead SEC columnist, college football news, a guest all over radio shows all across the country. He's normally on Alabama's side, but this week he's going to LSU. He's a Bengal Tiger. Russ, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. I hope you have a great week. You've pissed my audience off here in Tuscaloosa.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Russ.